Votre heure est venue. Votre civilisation est condamnée.
Disponible d'ici quelques jours, Mass Effect 3 fait partie de ces jeux extrêmement attendus depuis maintenant plusieurs mois. Mais parmi ceux qui suivent la série depuis ses débuts, certains appréhendent un peu la sortie de ce dernier épisode. En effet, l'orientation définitivement plus tournée vers l'action du volet précédent a très certainement froissé une partie de la fanbase, notamment les amoureux de RPG qui voyaient en cette décision une volonté de BioWare de taper dans un plus large public et donc d'être moins hardcore dans l'expérience qu'il proposait. Une tournure d'événements que l'on a déjà pu observer pour Dragon Age par exemple, avec les résultats qu'on lui connaît. Une préoccupation légitime donc, qui nous a poussé à en savoir plus auprès de Mike Gamble, producteur du prochain Mass Effect.
Before designing and building Mass Effect 3, we spoke to the fans, we found out what's important to the fans, what they want to see. And part of that was bringing back some of those RPG elements from Mass Effect 1 into Mass Effect 3. So for example, customization related to the armor, so the different armor pieces with different armor tints. The weapons themselves, now you can modify all the weapons, so every weapon that you pick up in the game can be customized to your playstyle, can be customized to your individual preferences. The powers, so for every class we've added new powers, but we've also now have the ability to evolve the powers 9 different ways within the powers. So every Shepard that you build is going to be slightly different. Those sorts of customization features we've brought back from Mass Effect 1, for sure. Between the games, we look at all the reviews, we look at all the press, the coverage, what was missing from fans, what they think they should have added, and then we try to be as inclusive as possible. So we go out, we look at the things that were important. So much of the RPG elements that I just described to you was direct feedback from fans. Also things like new relationship types, inclusion of new relationships, definitely from fan feedback. It is really important to us and we do listen.
Si manifestement BioWare a tenu compte des retours de la communauté, on retrouve tout de même cette volonté d'élargir son public, notamment à travers les idées mises en place pour ceux qui découvriraient l'univers de Mass Effect avec ce troisième volet. On se souvient de l'excellente initiative du studio pour la version PS3 de Mass Effect 2, avec ce comics au début de l'aventure qui vous laissait effectuer les choix disponibles dans le premier épisode exclusif à la 360. Mais qu'en est-il ici ?
We haven't locked in any plans in terms of those sorts of things, but what we have done in Mass Effect 3, if you've never played before, if it detects that you've never played before, the conversations and the encounters with characters during the game will be slightly different. They will be more explanatory. They won't assume knowledge of previous things. They will give context into those events. So they'll just add a little bit more exposition so that players don't have to play the previous games. We've been speaking about as a trilogy for quite some time. However, in Mass Effect 3, we feel it's an amazing place if you've never played any previous Mass Effect games to jump into it. So to balance the accessibility of the previous players with the accessibility of the new players involved us to have to make a lot of extra work into certain conversations, certain things, so that previous players would have that full deep experience if they wanted to dig in, find out what their decisions did, all the changes that has happened as a result of them. But the new players who jumped into the game wouldn't be lost, would be able to hit the ground running, would be able to fight the Reapers and completely understand where they're coming from. So that was actually really important to us, and I think we've been able to do that quite well.
Toujours dans cette optique de proposer une expérience au plus grand nombre, BioWare a instauré dans ce Mass Effect 3 3 styles de gameplay, comme nous l'explique Mike.
So part of that was when we started making Mass Effect 3, we wanted to have the story accessible to previous players, but also accessible to new players as well. So we had to make decisions in terms of how we would present that. And their experiences essentially is an action experience. Is that the kind of game that you would like to play? An RPG experience or story experience. So the action experience is the conversations themselves. They play out as cutscenes. You don't have to make the choices explicitly. But the combat is visceral and tough, and it's more of an action experience. RPG is something that you'd traditionally be used to with Mass Effect. You make the decisions, the combat is fairly normal, and you would go through based on that. The story mode, on the other hand, is you have that full decision-making empowerment, but the combat has been dialed down in terms of difficulty, so it's not as difficult from the combat perspective. it's just a choice that the player can make. If they don't like the choice they make, or if they want to switch at any point in time, they just have to go into the options menu and they can just change the difficulty or change whether or not they want to make the decisions in the conversations. And after that, it'll be changed for them.
Un nouveau concept donc, susceptible de déstabiliser les fans de la première heure, même si dans les faits, l'expérience RPG Mass Effect à laquelle nous nous sommes habitués dans le premier est bel et bien présente dans ce volet. Ce qui est totalement nouveau en revanche, c'est ce mode coop online qui se présente sous la forme d'un mode horde à la Gears. Concrètement, vous choisissez votre classe parmi 6 et intégrez une escouade de 4 personnes maximum qui sera chargée de repousser des vagues d'ennemis ou de remplir des objectifs divers. Et si à première vue, le fait d'inclure du multi dans un titre comme Mass Effect peut en effrayer quelques-uns, force est de constater que d'une part, la présence de ce multi est totalement justifiée par le contexte de cet épisode, et d'autre part, que l'ensemble fonctionne plutôt bien.
We wanted to do online features and cooperative play or multiplayer play for a long time in Mass Effect, and we never quite found the right place to put it into our game until Mass Effect 3. And when we started Mass Effect 3, we knew we wanted to do it, so we were able to fit it in with the rest of the main game. We didn't add it on after. You know, we developed it with the same studio that makes the single player experience. So you know, everyone is aware of it and everyone knows how it ties in. So what it is in Mass Effect 3, you have this theme of war. You have the theme of the Reapers attacking, and then you have Shepard's story. So Shepard's story, he's doing some important things in the galaxy as well, but the online multiplayer enables the player to see what it would be like to play as the soldier on the ground, the soldier who is fighting the Reapers on a day-to-day basis for territory, and have that experience told. So you can play with your friends, you don't have to play it, but what you can do is you play it, and the more you play it, the better what we call is the galactic readiness rating increases. So that readiness rating gets used in the single player, as well as the single player things that you've done to determine your outcome against the Reapers during certain points in the game. So the higher your readiness rating, the higher your success rate with the Reapers will be. But as I mentioned, you don't have to play the multiplayer. It's there if you want to, but you can play the single player. You play all the side quests and all the additional missions that we put in there, and then that will get you the same sort of outcome. Or you can play the single player through the critical path and a little bit of multiplayer, and you'll get the same outcome. So it's completely up to the player how they want to choose it, but they were both designed together, right?
Les nouvelles idées sont donc nombreuses dans ce Mass Effect, mais on retrouve tout de même quelques éléments de gameplay présents depuis le début de la série, comme les romances par exemple.
There's all sorts of romance. Many different types of relationships now can be had within the game. What we've done is we've been able to reduce the number of squad members a little bit from Mass Effect 2, and because we've reduced it, what we've had the time and the ability to do is make those relationships a lot deeper, a lot more organic. There are many points in the story where what's happening in the main game is directly reflected in the relationships, and those relationships grow or don't grow depending on what the player will do and how much attention they're willing to put into those relationships. So actually, I think the relationships is one of the greatest things about Mass Effect 3. You really come out of it with a sense of connection to your squad members.
Malheureusement, les aléas du calendrier font que nous ne sommes pas en mesure de vous proposer une critique de Mass Effect 3 dans ce numéro de XP. Mais soyez sûr que vous y aurez droit le mois prochain. Et a priori, on devrait se faire plaisir.